everyone, and welcome back to the Wooly Wonka Fibers podcast. I'm Anne, and you can find me on the web at my main website, which is www.woolywonkafiber.com. You can find my Ravelry group under Wooly Wonka Fibers, and you can also find me on Facebook and Instagram as Wooly Wonka Fibers. And if you need to get in touch with me directly on Ravelry, my username is Bunny Spinner. If you are a new viewer, thank you so much for tuning into this podcast that talks about my knitting, spinning, hand dyeing, crafting extravaganzas. And if you're a returning listener, thank you so much for joining me again. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much to those folks who came by the booth at YarnFest this past weekend and introduced yourselves. There was a lot more of you who watched this podcast than I thought. So that's really nice, and it was great to be able to meet you in person. Today I'm going to try to keep this to about 30-35 minutes. We'll see how I do because I have a lot to talk about from YarnFest. A couple of just really quick high-level announcements. A reminder that if you're in the Albuquerque area, I'm teaching a class at the yarn store at Nob Hill on Saturday morning. That's my color theory class, and I think they have one spot left. So if you're interested, please give them a call. I will leave the information in the show notes about that. I'm also going to link in the show notes the knit-alongs or create-alongs that I'm involved in right now, two of which I'm hosting, and those would be the hand-spun knit-along or crochet-along, and the shawl-along that runs the months of April and May. Both of those you can find threads in my main group on Ravelry, but again, I'll link to those. And then I'm still working on projects for the Tiny Paper Foxes. It's a create along. You can sew or knit or crochet, but it's a wardrobe staple make along. And I will talk about that project in a few minutes. And then the two Harry Potter alongs, the one first of which is ongoing through the end of the month, that's being hosted by KT of Inside Number 23 podcast. And the other one is being hosted by Jilly of the Knitting Broomstick podcast. Those both end at the end of April. And again, I will link to all of those in the show notes if you're interested in participating or just getting a little more information about those. So let's just go right on to YarnFest. You guys, YarnFest was absolutely incredible. I did the same thing, or I had the same thing occur that I did last year, which was great weather till 20 minutes before I got to the convention center. Last year we had horrific downpours. This year we had high winds and blizzard conditions. Not so much. So we inched along those last 20 minutes, and I wound up unloading at the loading dock at 2 o'clock in the afternoon in just this torrential snowstorm with high winds. And luckily I always take everything in these big rectangular zip top bags that I've got, so everything's waterproofed but me. I mean, I had a winter coat, but still, you know, you're in and out and you're covered. And so that nicely quit 5 minutes after I finished unloading all of my stuff. So other than that, the weekend was beautiful. They had a great turnout. I didn't get final numbers on the last day, but I know the classes were packed. We had tons and tons of people. And so if you came and shopped, particularly on Friday, and you were one of those folks who was standing in line waiting to get checked out, thank you so much for your patience, because you know, you only have one set of hands, and you know, it's all you can do. My customer and good friend Karen came and helped me out on Saturday. That crazy moment where we had 6 people deep standing in line. Of course, she was like, "Hey, can I go grab lunch?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, we're fine." And then apparently I wasn't. but we managed, and it was so great to have her help. She was a huge help because she already knows my yarns since she's purchased many of them. And so she was able to answer questions and help people figure out what patterns went with what yarns and send folks off, you know, with a lovely project to start. So it was a really good show for me. I'm definitely planning on going back next year. And I wanted to have a quick shout out to my friend Patty, who's also a longtime customer. She came by the booth to shop, and she was so cute. She said, "Oh, I know you're working on that scrap blanket. Do you only take scraps from people you love?" And I was like, well, no, whatever is good. So she reached into her bag, and look what she brought me. Okay, this is a gallon Ziploc bag. It is packed with mini skeins. It's totally awesome. And I did ask her if any of these were mine, thinking, you know, I might have duplicates, and she was like, oh, I don't even give the scraps away. So that made me feel really good. And now I have this whole fun bunch of awesome colors of minis to work with. So thank you for thinking of me, Patty. This was really delightful and a huge surprise, and you definitely didn't have to do that, but I am very grateful that you did. So thank you. These are going to be put to good use. Do not worry at all. I was just in general amazed at how many people have either followed my Instagram feed or followed me on this podcast. And so again, it was just really nice to be able to connect with folks who I consider my friends. You know, whether I've met them several times before in person and maybe only see once a year, or folks I've never even met before in person, but who were kind enough to, you know, support my shop and are just really good folks. I think knitters in general are, but I like to think my customers are near and dear to my heart. So thank you all. Let's see. I haven't done a ton of knitting, so I'm gonna kind of save that till halfway through or most of the way through, because I don't have a lot to talk about that's active knitting. I did start the sample project in the hotel room for the May self-striping sock colorway, and I worked on that in the booth. So if you swung through the booth, you may have seen a preview of the May colorway. I have one sock almost done. I think I have about another inch of the foot, and then I just need to do toe decreases, and that'll be finished. But that was about what I had time for. My friends Jeffrey and Dennis, who are the yarn guys and who own a yarn shop, but they are also the US distributors for the Norwegian brand Rami, who does the Finalgarn yarns. Were there in their booth. And I've done some contract work for them, and so we had dinner Thursday night, which was the first night, and I'm going to be working up a contract piece for their store for their 5th anniversary. It's the store's anniversary and their personal anniversary all wrapped up into one. So I have a project for them that'll be out next month that I'm very excited about. And then my next door neighbor on the one side was Marilyn, who owns Water Abbey yarns. And if you haven't had a chance to use her yarns, they are wonderful. They're a direct import from an Irish mill, and so they are these lovely heathery tweedy yarns. They're just beautiful. And so she sent me home with some yarns to work up some designs, and I'm really excited about working with these. I've used her yarns before. She's been in business about 18 years, and it was just really nice to finally get to meet her in person, and her yarns are absolutely gorgeous. So let me show you what I got from her booth. This is her fingering weight. It's super, super dark, but that's pretty close. She has this in natural colors. So there's this, which is called Dark Welsh. And then she has a very pale gray, natural gray, and a very lovely cream natural sheepy colors. So these are, it's a 2-ply fingering weight, 3 ounces and 400 yards. And this yarn is fairly loosely spun at the mill, and so when you knit with it, it really blooms. It's just gorgeous. It's got a gorgeous drape. So I've got that to work with. She also sent me home with a couple skeins of her sport weight yarn. This is 100 grams and 330 yards, and this colorway is Moss. Sorry, kind of forgot what that was for a minute. Which has some gorgeous, gorgeous heathery browns and a little bit of blue up against a, well, moss green, like the color suggests. Oops, that's too dark. Gorgeous yarn. I'm really looking forward to working with this one. And then the final colorway that I grabbed from her booth is called Sage. It's kind of the next lighter step to moss. This is the worsted weight, and so it's 100 grams and 220 yards. And it's just a lovely, soft, kind of pale blue-green. Not super pale, it's not pastel by any means, but it's just got some lovely kind of blue flecks in it as well. Gorgeous for cables. It's got a nice tight ply, wears really great. I knit my dad a vest from the worsted weight 15 years ago. It's been a while. Looks brand new. So she just has some lovely yarn. So I'm happy and anxious to get some things cast on, do some swatching, and look at using her yarns for various and sundry things. I also picked up a full project's worth of yarn from Brooke, who is the owner of Sincere Sheep. And I'll link to both Water Abbey and the Sincere Sheep shops, say that 3 times fast as well, in the show notes so you guys can take a wander through their products. The thing I really liked about Brooke's yarns is that she has, most of them are from smaller ranches out here in the West, and the two yarns that I got from her line, one is a Rambouillet and one is a Cormo, both of which are fine wools. Their Rambouillet is sort of merino on steroids. It's a breed that was developed in France that is from merino stock, and it's a very fine, very bouncy wool. And you can't find either of those yarns very often in a commercially spun yarn base. So I was delighted that she carries them, and this gives me the opportunity to work with something that I also really enjoy, and it's supporting local-ish, we'll say regional, small farms. So the first thing I got is enough to do a shawl with. It's the Sport Weight, which is the Rambouillet wool, 100% Rambouillet. It's the Equity Sport line, and it's sheep from the Kid Ranch in Wyoming. So these are 2 ounces with 200 yards per ounce. And because the yarn is so bouncy, even though that's normally a sort of standard fingering weight put up, it winds up being a sport weight because there's so much bloom to this yarn. And let's see. I don't think there's a color name on these specifically. I don't see one, but it's a lovely warm lilac color, one of my favorites. It's maybe a little bit more pink in real life, just a little bit. But I got 3 skeins of that. And so I've got a total of 600 yards to work with. So this is going to be a shawl project at some point. I mean, don't look for these this week, y'all. That's not going to happen. Long range planning. The other yarn that I picked up is also a sport weight. It's the Cormo Sport. Cormo is also similar to merino in terms of being super soft and very bouncy. It was originally, I'm pretty sure this is right, a cross between Corriedale and merino, which is the Cormo portion of it. I'll double check on that. If I'm wrong, I'll stick it in the show notes. But it's as soft as merino and definitely is bouncy. It just has a slightly different hand. It's almost a little bit kind of almost dry or chalky feeling, but not in a bad way. Just it's not sleek, like some merino feels. You know, it's sort of soft and sleek. This is kind of soft and chalky. Get some, try some, you'll love it. It's a great, great yarn. So this is from 9 Mile Ranch in Casey, Wyoming. Again, it's the sport weight, and this is put up with 400 yards and 4 ounces. Again, similar to what you might find is a fingering weight, but because of the bloom of it, it ends up being a sport weight. Again, I don't see a specific colorway in this. The Rambouillet is a 2-ply, and this is, I believe, a 3-ply. It looks like a 3-ply to me, with a tighter twist. So I thought this would be great for a lace weight, lightweight sweater. And she had this purple color, which I kind of have on, so you already know it's one of my favorites, in this just gorgeous, just dusky purple. It's got a lot of blue in it. I just loved it. It's one of, I mean, it's like my signature color if I think I have one. So anyway, I got 4 skeins of that, which puts me at 1,200 yards, which I think will be great for a sweater. And again, those last 2 are both from the Sincere Sheep. And there is her cute little label. And everything's, I guess I should also mention, everything's a naturally dyed product. So I love these, and I love the chance that I get to collaborate with Brooke at Sincere Sheep as well. So I have a lot of stuff you guys can see that, you know, got to get cracking on. I sat in my hotel room Saturday night, I think it was. No, Friday night. And I made myself a list of everything that I need to get designed this year, and it's 2 notebook pages. So when I'm done dyeing today, I'm hitting the needles. So in terms of personal knitting and things that I have done this week, I don't have a ton to show you. Like I said, I put the self-striping sock yarn on the needles. So that was what I worked on while I stood in my booth, because it's just in the round stockinette. I can do that while I talk or pick it up and put it down. The other project that I was working on, that was the Woolen Rabbit, haven't done anything on that this week. I haven't done anything on my Drachenfels shawl. And I did not get my shawl knit along project cast on, but that is going to happen this week. What I did get knit this week, I got 2 more minis, squares done. This first one is a Gnome Acres sock yarn base. Jen, Tiny Dancer Knits, you probably know the color. I have no idea, unmarked, but since you have their entire catalog in your head, you probably know. And then the second one is from my Alchemy 4-pack of skeins. And that's the second skein in the pack. Okay, so got those done. If you remember, I also have been working on the heathered cardigan. And that was actually what I kind of focused on before I left. I'm not sure, I got just into it. So I worked on that quite a bit before I took off. And I'm at the point that I think I need to pop this on my, I have one more increase to do. One more increase of the raglan that's there. So I have one more increase to do. And then I need to pop this on my dress form and make sure that A, it's the right circumference, and B, that this is deep enough. If it's not, and it looks a little short to me, so if it's not deep enough, what I'll do is just add some rows where I'm not increasing at all to lengthen the drop that's here, because I hate having stuff that is too short, like binds under the armpits. And that's one of the things, if your row gauge is off in a raglan, the sleeves are not going to fit correctly because it'll be too short or too long. So I normally like about 8 to 8.5 inches of the raglan drop right here. So this doesn't look like it's close enough to me even with the collar added. I think it's still going to be probably 4 or 5 rows too shallow. So I'll throw it on the dress form and just double check. But then once I get that accomplished, I'll be ready to put the sleeves, which are the plain stockinette that's right there. I'll be ready to put those onto scrap yarn and finish working the body because it's worked from the top down. And again, I'm knitting this in Silky Wool from Elsebeth Lavold in this dark charcoal color. Oh, that's pretty close. So I will probably try to get that to the point this week that I can at least get the sleeves onto scrap yarn and go from there. I have a lot of knitting going on. I also cast on my project that I'm doing for the Knit and Spin special edition of Spin-Off, and I'm maybe a quarter of the way through that, and that's really my focus. That and the project for the Yarn Guys are kind of my main focus because they're both due May 1st in essence. So let's see what else. Talked about those. Spinning. I spun about 40 minutes, half an hour each night I was away in my hotel room, but I'm spinning the Merino Bamboo blend from the March Wooly Wonka Fibers Club, fairly thin, and I've got 5 ounces of it. So I didn't even get through the first 2.5 ounces, but I'm going to work on that this week. That's my fun project at night for my kind of zen relaxation moment. So I'm hopeful to at least get the singles in pretty good shape by this time next week when I talk to you, and then decide what my next project will be. So not a lot to share with you guys there. Kind of a crazy weekend, but in a good way. Just not a lot of time to, you know, work on things that I can share with you. So my last thing that I wanted to talk about was my wonderful package that was waiting for me when I got home. Again, I have such lovely customers that I really feel like so many of them have become good friends. I just can't tell you how much joy that gives me to have, you know, you're already kind of pre-screened because we know that I like yarn, and if you're a customer, I'm assuming you like yarn, so you already have that in common. But it's always wonderful to find folks who there's even more things you have in common, and you kind of find those kindred spirits. So I had been chit-chatting back and forth on Instagram with my friend Jennie, who's Tiny Dancer Knits, and we've been talking about teas that we liked. And I'm a huge tea fan. She's a huge tea fan. And so we thought, well, we're going to do our own little private swap where we send some yarn back and forth, send some tea back and forth. And so I shopped local, she shopped local, and then we exchanged packages. And so mine was waiting for me when I got home from YarnFest, which was so wonderful because I was dragging when I got in yesterday. I just was like, whew, I need to get the car unpacked, and then I need to have some couch veggie time. Although it was so nice, I actually wound up sitting out on the porch. So she spoiled me so incredibly. Let me start with the teas. She sent me this awesome Earl Grey tea that has lavender in it. I made a cup of this yesterday and sat out on the porch in the sun and drank it. It was so good. And this tea, I love lavender. The tea just by itself, you could use it as a sachet. It smells so good. She also sent me a box of Austin breakfast tea, which I had this morning, and it was lovely. It had a really nice, soft, kind of floral scent to it. And then she also sent me a bunch of packs of 2 different types of flavor teas. Tazo's Spicy Ginger, and that's got ginger, rhubarb, citrus, chamomile, and licorice root, and I love licorice root. It actually also has fennel in it. I love fennel. I know it's one of those vegetables that people are like, what do I do with this? But I have this great recipe for a fennel gratin, and I love anything with black licorice in it. I don't know, it's like a childhood thing for me. I love black licorice. Anyway, this is, Jen, I'm saving this one for some rainy day. They're saying this weekend we're supposed to have rain. This one is on the table for that. And then she also sent me this really awesome chocolate flavored tea, which she says is her favorite. It's a Numi tea. It's got black tea, but then cocoa powder, vanilla, rhubarb, cinnamon, orange peel, and nutmeg. This sounds so fantastic. This I'm having this afternoon. This is my treat. This is my carrot to get through all the dyeing I need to get through this morning after I'm done podcasting. Jen, I'm putting this in the cup at your recommendation. She also sent me this great container of local to her honey, which is perfect, Jen, because this is the only sweetener I can have. So that's going in the chocolate tea, which I am excited about. She also sent me, and I should say she sent me like a handful of those 2 tea bags, so I have them to enjoy for more than 1 cup. My husband kind of laughed at this. She sent me a pack of gorgeous colored pencils and a butterfly coloring book. And the thing that made my husband laugh was, I don't know if you can see up here, it says color in de-stress. And he was like, I'm going to have to buy those in gross if that actually, you know, is the thing for you. So he was totally on board with this as a concept. It's like, you need a little more of that in your life, hon. So I have those to enjoy during one of my quiet moments. She sent me 2 separate mini skeins. This one is Hedgehog Fibers Teacup, which is a really fun colorway and one I've been wanting to try. And then this is Miss Babs. It's Bluebonnets, which is pretty much Texas right now because I've seen the photography. And then attached to that, she also sent me these great project keepers. Let's see if I can get them so that they show up. But they're all butterfly themed. This one is just a little silver charm with a bead attached to it. And then these 2 are the ones that have the little pictures underneath. I don't know if those will focus very well. It doesn't look like it. But they have kind of a rounded top and little butterflies in them. And they are absolutely gorgeous. And now that I have all these other projects cast on, I really needed a couple of new project keepers since I'm doing things that have garter stitch in them, so I can put one of those and know what's on the right side. And then finally, she sent me this little care package of yarns. Aren't they beautiful? She and I have very similar tastes, so I think we were, in some respects, easy to shop for each other without worrying, oh my gosh, is she going to like this? So this first one is Gnome Acres, which I know is one of her favorite brands. And the colorway is My Fair Nomi, and the base is Sonic Screwdriver. So it's 70% baby alpaca, 20% silk, 10% cashmere, and it's 435 yards, 100 grams. And it is a gorgeous, gorgeous blend of really soft, lovely blues, some cornflower blue and sky blue. And it's insanely soft. I mean, insanely soft. I'm going to have to do something that I can wear it here. Because it's just gorgeous. She also sent me a skein of Supernatural yarns. This is, here's the tag for that one. This is Mermaid Sock, which is 100% merino, and it's 400 yards, 100 grams, and the colorway is the Hogshead, and it's a great tonal dye that's kind of cranberries and garnets and wine. It's really, really subtle multicolors in there. Just gorgeous. I love that. And then the final skein that she sent me is from A Homespun House, And this is the Bakken fingering weight base, 70% superwash merino, 25% cashmere, and 5% nylon, with 436 yards in 100 grams. And the colorway, which is a Harry Potter inspired one, is the Potions Master. And it's these great pops of green and little specks of kind of a chocolate brown, and then kind of a lighter, almost chestnut brown in there. It's really, really, really pretty. And Jen also sent me a really lovely note that kind of explained why she picked the different yarns. Here's the card from Homespun House. She's on the web as well. And the bases that she liked and why she had picked these. It was just really lovely to open your box, Jen. Thank you so much. I do not yet have a project slated for these, although I may use this one next month for the Jane Austen knit along. I haven't decided if I want to go this direction or if I want to go a lighter pastel. And then I have this for a little more Harry Potter fun. If I finish my Drachenfels shawl, I may cast this on for a pair of the Hermione's Everyday Socks, because I think it would be fun in that. Or one of the other Harry Potter themed sock yarn. This one is so soft, I have to figure out what I'm going to do with it, because I know I want to wear it around my neck. So whether I'm going to make a small shawl or whether I'm going to make a KAL with it, I haven't decided, but you know, I can pet them until then. That was a very fun swap, and I hope that you enjoyed your box too. It was fun shopping for you, and there was a lot of things that I sent you that, all things being equal, I would have kept for myself. So I think that's it for this week. Again, I will link to a bunch of stuff in the show notes so you guys can kind of follow along with that. I am going to try to podcast next Monday, which will be the 11th of April. Today's the 4th of April. And then we'll skip a week because I'm going to be on the East Coast on the 18th of April and not back until late enough in that week. I think it would be better just to carry it over and podcast again on the 25th. So hopefully you guys enjoyed visiting with me a little bit. It was nice to catch up with all of you, and I'm looking forward to talking to you again next Monday. So y'all have a great week. Hopefully the weather is wonderful wherever you are and you've had a chance to enjoy your crafting hobbies and maybe a little bit of great weather too. So until next time, bye.